Hi, I'm Chef Rebecca with Bush's Fresh Food Market, and today we are going to make some pumpkin puree from scratch, and then we're going to put that pumpkin puree into a pumpkin skillet snack cake. To start, we're going to take a pumpkin, and this pumpkin is a small pie pumpkin, which is what you want to use for any recipe where you're going to be eating the pumpkin. Any larger pumpkins or squash are going to be too stringy and bitter. So what we've done first is cut the pumpkin in half, scraped out the seeds and the stringy flesh that's on the inside, and now we're going to take both of our pumpkin halves, put them cut side down on a sheet tray that's lined with parchment, and then we're going to place that in a 350-degree oven for about an hour or until the pumpkin flesh is nice and soft and roasted. Our pumpkins are all nice and roasted. We've taken them out of the oven, and so what we're going to do is start scooping our flesh, and we're going to put it into a food processor. And you can tell that this is perfectly cooked because it's not too wet and it is peeling away from the skin of the pumpkin very, very easily. And now we're going to puree that just to break up that stringy texture and to make it more smooth. So now that we've pureed our pumpkin, we're going to put it into a strainer. If you don't have a fine mesh strainer, you can use a colander lined with coffee filters or cheesecloth, and it will do pretty much the same thing. Let's see how much water has drained out of this pumpkin. So you can see that there's quite a bit of liquid that has already come out of this pumpkin after we've roasted it, after we've pureed it, and after we've strained it. So now what we're left with is this really beautiful pumpkin puree. If we measure it out, we should end up with anywhere from 1.5 to 2 cups of pumpkin puree. And that's plenty for a pumpkin pie and more than enough for the pumpkin skillet snack cake that we're going to make in a few minutes. First thing we're going to do is preheat our oven to 350 degrees, and we're going to take a heavy skillet. Cast iron works really well, but you can also use a general good heavy skillet, and we're going to put our butter right into the skillet. Once we have our butter in the skillet, we're going to put the skillet in the preheated oven to melt the butter. Now at this point, we're going to mix the dry ingredients. So we've got flour, baking powder, salt, cloves, ground ginger, ground cinnamon. Once all of your dry ingredients are in the bowl, you can mix them together with a whisk to incorporate. Like they are now, we're going to move on to our wet ingredients. Now that our butter is melted, we're going to just swirl that in the pan a little bit and pour it into a heat-proof container. While our butter is cooling, we're going to add the rest of our wet ingredients into this bowl. We're going to start with sugar, brown sugar, that pumpkin puree we made, yogurt. If you don't have yogurt, you can use buttermilk, and 1 large egg. Now we're going to use a whisk and incorporate all of those wet ingredients a little bit. Now at this point, we're going to add in our melted butter and mix that in. Once all of your liquid ingredients are incorporated and mixed well together, they're ready to add to our dry ingredients. Once we do that, we're going to mix until our wet and dry ingredients are incorporated, but we don't want to overmix because that will create a tough cake at the end. So now that we've incorporated all of our ingredients and the batter is ready, we're going to put it right into the skillet. So we're just going to scrape that batter right into our prepared skillet. And now we're ready to go into the oven. Now our cake is in the oven. We're going to let it bake for about 35 to 40 minutes at 350 degrees. We're going to know when it's done when we insert a toothpick into the center and it comes out clean. To serve our cake, we're going to add a scoop of delicious vanilla ice cream. You could also use whipped cream, but I like vanilla ice cream when the cake is straight out of the oven and still warm. And it's time to dig in.